Welcome in. Campo and Joe, Facebook Live. We appreciate everybody that took advantage of Chiefs' notice that said, hey, we're going Facebook Live a little after 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. Joe C. from XL Primetime, our head coach, Dave Campo. He is stoked and fired up to get into a Game 1 win for your Jacksonville Jaguars over the Indianapolis Colts. You got notes, and we got a W in Duval.
Listen, that was a big game, no matter what anybody says. I think expectations might temper it a little bit, but in reality, it is tough to win in this league. It's tough to go on the road and win. And with the Colts, that's been something that's been a little bit of a tough situation for the Jaguars over the years, especially there. Mm-hmm. They scored 31 points, which is the first time in their history that they scored 31 points at the Colts.
Yeah.
At, what is it, Lincoln Oil?
Yeah.
What is
Lucas
it? Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, it's like whatever it is up there, leaving Indianapolis with a win.
Absolutely.
And I feel like as we set this up, and I'll admit it, I was coming into this season expecting a slaughter. I was expecting an inexperienced Anthony Richardson that had a total of 13 starts in his college career, and some of them were pretty bad, and an inexperienced head coach in Shane Steichen against a behemoth that I believe is being built here in Duval with this offensive firepower that this team had, and Doug Peterson, and on and on and on, just like a lot of people out there. I expected them to wipe the floor with the Indianapolis Colts.
Well, you know, Joe, to be honest with you, I felt the same way about our abilities.
Right.
But I did this for 46 years as a coach.
You know.
On Tuesday, I'm sitting and with my wife, and I said to my wife, I said, man, I'm getting nervous for this game already. She goes, it's 4 days from now. What are you getting nervous about? But the first ball game is very, very difficult because, and especially when you got a new quarterback and a new coach, you don't have any idea what they're doing. So you're going from the seat of your pants in a lot of areas.
Well, I think what I learned based on what you just said, and we'll get into all this, but you can be just as worried on this end with what you just described, the great unknown, as much as the two guys that have never done it before.
Exactly.
Right?
Correct.
And I would not have expected that.
Yeah, because I've seen it. A perfect example is there were 16 games played this weekend, okay? And I'm not going by spreads and all that because as a coach, all I cared about was winning and losing. That was the bottom line. There are 16 games, 8 favorites won and 8 favorites lost. Yeah. So that first ball game, you don't have any idea how the game's going to go. And it comes down, Joe, just like this one did. Right. 2 plays for you makes the difference. 2 plays for them makes the difference. And it could have been either way.
And by the way, we're going to go over a couple of plays that I don't think anyone was expecting at all. But just to kind of go to your point, and look, I love the National Football League. I love trying to handicap and prognosticate and forecast this. But I'm wrong more than I'm right. That's just what the NFL is set up to do. It's set up to make you look dumb. And the Dallas Cowboys go to New York and they shut out a playoff team. The New England Patriots, after having to fire their offensive coordinator and go beg Bill O'Brien to come back from Alabama, and Mac Jones for a little while was a 1-quarterback room, and they played Philadelphia pretty dang close.
Yes.
The Arizona Cardinals went on the road, had no idea who their starter was, and they almost beat the Commanders. The Minnesota Vikings go and lose to Baker Mayfield down in Tampa Town. So anything can happen.
Absolutely. And in all those ball games, and I'm just going to bring up one because I didn't see it, but I remember reading about it, was Josh Dobbs with Arizona played a pretty good game, except for one thing. He threw 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
All it comes down to is how you played that day.
Right.
No matter how good you are, because you don't see blowouts in this league. So when you go into the fourth quarter, if it's close, anything can happen. And the Buffalo game last night was a perfect example.
Gosh. I was beside myself because, look, I think we were all rocked by Aaron Rodgers going down. I am a fan of watching Aaron Rodgers play the game.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm a pick on him from time to time and say he's a drama queen and a diva and coming out of the darkness and all that kind of stuff. But he is some kind of fun to watch.
Yep.
And we saw 4 flipping plays, and now it's gone.
Yeah, and the shame of the whole thing is that he had, I've heard people talking about, well, the fans were all fired up. Mm-hmm. How about the players?
Yeah.
They were looking at it like, hey, this is our ticket. Yeah. We've got a chance here. Mm-hmm. With this guy, and all of a sudden it's gone. Now, that doesn't mean – now, I think it fired up the defense a little bit because they played great defense. Yeah. But it's tough to win in this league with just defense. Right. And they're going to have to do some things offensively in order to get it done.
Yeah, because if you need a case study, and you might want to file this one away forever, if you want a case study and how tough it is to win in the National Football League, punch in last night's tape.
Yep.
Their star, the guy that was going to come in and save the franchise goes out 4 plays into a game, and a strong MVP candidate in Josh Allen and a playoff performing team on a regular basis lost to Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. It was unreal the way they lost it. 4 turnovers from Josh Allen. I'll tell you what, as we set this up and we go from that to the Jags game, Trevor made a couple of poor decisions, lost the football a couple of times, but you better be happy you have Trevor Lawrence, because right now up there in Buffalo, Josh Allen, I'm sure, he's given a lot of people heartache and heartburn over the last handful of weeks.
Yeah, and knock on wood, you know, things can change in a heartbeat, unfortunately, for the Jets. Yeah. And to me, you have to protect the football. If you throw the ball to where you got a chance for the other team to get it, mm-hmm. and you do it 3 or 4 times in a game, right. It's over. If you throw 4 interceptions, I forget the percentages. We had all the percentages. Yeah. Win the turnover game by 90%. Mm-hmm. Win it, our 30%. Mm-hmm. You win it by 2, it's 70%. You win it by 3, it's 90%. Wow. It just doesn't happen. You can't turn the ball over and give the offenses another opportunity.
And I told you on XL Primetime, Josh Allen acted like it was a 45-0 blowout, and he just kept giving the ball away as if he was giving out Christmas presents. That was honestly, it was an embarrassment. It really was. The callous disregard for the football was an old Tom Coughlin quote.
They couldn't matriculate down the field that way.
And I was even trying to think of, I don't even know how far back we're going, Coach, but one of the old guard coaches when they first introduced the forward pass. And he said, 3 things can happen with a forward pass, and 2 of them are bad.
Right. And, I'm pretty close to that old guard, but
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, And so, the great thing is we went up there and we took care of business. And whenever you have a quarterback that has the pedigree that our guy does, you go into the 4th quarter and it's close, that's why he's going to get paid, because that's when you turn it on, and he can do it.
And I'll admit, I was surprised. I thought, like we had said, I forecast a big one. I'm pretty sure you were close to that score as well. But there were 5 teams with my notes last Sunday that came from behind to win.
Right.
Miami, big win against L.A. Washington against Arizona. They had to come back against the Josh Dobb-led Cardinals. Las Vegas had to come back against Denver. Detroit did it against Kansas City and Jacksonville. I never would, honestly, Coach, I did not expect them to be trailing in the 4th quarter. Yet there they were, 21-17, down in a ball game. A couple of things that got them to that point, as far as you're concerned.
I guarantee you Kansas City didn't expect to be behind last week against Detroit either.
No.
That's it.
Yeah. And so you got to take care of business. But if you were, let's just start with a few criticisms, because the mistakes were made. Tank Bigsby, he was a big part of a couple of big ones, but where were the mistakes made to at least get to that position?
Well, from an offensive standpoint, obviously you had a couple guys in the offensive line that didn't get a lot of snaps in the preseason.
Yeah.
Ben Barch, Harrison, they were kind of hit and miss. And one of the big plays, the fumble situation, where everybody on the whole 22 of them weren't going to move until the ball was knocked on the ground, Ben Barch obviously got overarm swim on him, and that's what caused that situation. So that is one of the areas that they have to firm up, because this team we're playing this week has got, if Chris Jones is playing, the interior is going to have to handle it. The running game inside wasn't as strong as we need it to be but we stuck with it. Right. And that's what you have to do going through. So offensively, I thought that Trevor played a pretty good ball game. I think that after the breakout that Ridley had in the first half, in the second half, he might have looked to Ridley a few too many times because there's too much firepower on the other receivers.
And he kind of had a little bit of a disappearing act early in the second half. And I was curious what you thought, whether they did try and take him away, whether they did roll coverage to him, or if the play sheet just basically said we need to get others involved because we're going to have to come back there.
No, I think he's going to go where it takes him. But I think, once you get a guy have 8 catches for 100-something yards, I think it's a natural reaction for the quarterback to say, I'm looking for him first.
Oh, you better believe it.
He's a number one. I'm looking for him first. And normally what that does, you look for him first and then you come off it and go where you have to go. Well, I thought there was one that he could have gotten intercepted on an outside route, on a comeback route. Right. And there was a guy underneath him and a guy over the top of him. So I think he finally got to the point where he started to move it to some other people. And I think that's something they have to improve on.
And by the way, one of the best throws and catches you'll see, he to Zay Jones before the half. And we're talking about, I feel like we all know how capable this team is offensively, but it seems like, and this is me, what I'm guilty of, I'll say Calvin, I'll say Kirk, and then I say Zay. Zay's a big-time playmaker.
He is. And I'll tell you what, I think he's getting bigger and better. He's bigger than he was. Yeah. He runs just as fast, and he can make the tough catches.
Yeah,
that was a great catch. Yeah. But it was a perfect throw as well. But it had to be a great catch to make the play.
All right, so when we talk about pluses and minuses, that's what every NFL game is. But let's just stay on the pluses right now. Calvin Ridley obviously looks like the real deal. Zay, not just a complimentary player, a playmaker. Kirk, he had a couple of moments, but really didn't get a whole lot out of this game. So you can expect, going back to what you said earlier, we get to the Chiefs, they're going to try and make sure that they draw some plays for him and get everybody involved.
Right, exactly. And then you got Ingram, and I mean, they've got good players, and the two backs can catch the ball out of the backfield. There's a lot of firepower, which we knew going in, but it has to be done that day. And I think that the front seven for Kansas City is not as good as the team we just played, to be perfectly honest with you, when you put all 7 of them out there.
Right.
Now, Chris Jones is probably the best of that bunch in the league, maybe.
Right.
He's just under Darnold, probably. Donald, excuse me.
Donald,
but so, to me, this is a game where you're going to get more people involved. And I know Kansas City. I know Spagnuolo very well. I coached against him for a lot of years. He's from New England. I know the guy. We're friends in a way. He will do something to take Ridley away. He will definitely try to double him or do something. Right. And we've got to be ready to go in the other direction.
Yeah, I think Jaguar fans love hearing you say that the front 7 the Colts had might be better than the front 7 the Chiefs had. And so does that favor, as far as what Spagnuolo will try and do, does that favor this Jaguar team running the football with more success than last week, or just going back to the passing game?
No, I think we should be able to run the ball this week, and I think that's going to be very important, because the one thing he will do is he'll bring pressure. He's a pressure guy. He's an aggressive signal caller. So there's going to be situations, if you get behind the chains, where they'll put some pressure on Trevor. So we've got to run the football to keep it balanced. And when I say run the football, I'm talking about balance. I'm not talking about running every down. I want to be balanced up to where it gives you a chance to protect the quarterback.
The other thing I liked balance-wise was the fact that they weren't afraid to run Travis Etienne between the tackles. They're determined to prove that both guys, he and Tank Bigsby, are capable of doing anything on the play sheet. That I appreciate. That's what Doug's determined to do. So he's not going to give you a tell defensively just because one guy's back there and the other guy's
Absolutely.
not.
And I think both of the backs, obviously Bigsby had a couple of blips, but that play, the run he made at the goal line was indicative of him. Yeah. And the run that ETN made to seal the game basically is him. I mean, he can see and bounce and jump cut and do everything that you're looking for. So, we should be able to run the football.
You figure Tank Bigsby made a couple of mistakes. It wasn't the best pass that Trevor made out to the flat. It caused Tank to twist a little bit. Ball pops out. It's a pick. Then the other one, we all know what happened. It looked like Trevor was under pressure. Okay, he was under siege, and he thought he got the ball out. Tank thought it was an incomplete pass. Right. The ball hits the ground, and then he picks it up. It's still a live ball. You made a great point earlier. He wasn't the only one standing still. Everyone else was as well.
As a matter of fact, the guy that knocked the ball out of Bigsby's hand said he was just trying to be a jerk. He didn't realize it was live either. But Forrest Buckner knew it was live. He picked it up and ran it in.
And even though it didn't work out for Duval, just appreciate the fact that officials are going to let plays that are live stay live, not let a bad whistle kill it. We can go back and we can remember a handful of them.
A ton of those things.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It drives you crazy. And so we can go anywhere from Miles Jack wasn't down to, on and on and on. But this football team was able to overcome adversity, was trailing in the fourth quarter. After 3 quarters of football against Anthony Richardson, they were trailing. And the play that he made with Michael Pittman, that screen, you can get into that a little bit. But this team faced a little bit of adversity on the road. They hadn't beaten Indianapolis up in Indy since 2017, since the last playoff year that this football team had. The last time they went up there last year, they got beat by Matt Ryan and Alec Pierce, and Shaq Griffin got hurt, and we didn't see him in a Jaguar uniform after that. Right. So a lot has changed since then. So you can definitely take some positives out of this game. What about the way they defended Anthony Richardson? Because you, with your defensive coordinator background, you told us some good stuff.
Well, first of all, you didn't really see the real pass rush that we're capable of against him. They were going to make sure that he didn't kill them, not so much of getting on the perimeter to throw the ball, but getting on the perimeter to run the ball.
Yeah.
He's capable, if he gets in the open field, number one, tough to bring down. Number two, 4.4 speed.
Big human being.
He could have had a 50, 60-yard run that could kill you. Right. So they were going to make sure that they tried to keep the lanes square and to make sure they rushed into the blockers to make sure they could come off when he got outside. Now, when he did get outside, we had the effort. 2 of the sacks that Josh Allen got were he ran them out of bounds. Well, he had to run with them.
That
6
counts.
foot. He's 6 foot, whatever, 260 pounds himself.
Big human being.
So, what they tried to get the pass rush with was the zone pressures. Okay, and they ran a lot of them. We're not clean on all those as far as underneath throws. So they were able to convert some things with those zone blitzes, but we had guys free. And that's what, we need to be able to do. But we've got to get a little cleaner with the drops, with the linebackers. That's one of the things that we have to improve on.
This defense, and it's all right, here's my theory, and I think we both share this theory. They are going to have to outscore people. I guess the thing that dented my enthusiasm, dampened my enthusiasm a little bit coming out of this game. And like I said, when it was all said and done, 10-point win on the road against a division rival. I am not going to dismiss that or take anything away from that. But they are going from a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback to a Super Bowl winning quarterback and a Super Bowl MVP in Pat Mahomes. So even though they're at home, the talent level that they're going to go up against is ratcheted up big time. So this team, I believe, just based on what we saw, is going to have to outscore people. Yeah, they're not going to go toe-to-toe defensively.
Yeah, I think if you ask me what we have to do to win, I can't tell you a specific blitz or a specific whatever, but I can tell you that the defense is who they are. And the way we're going to win is protect the quarterback, run the football, protect the quarterback, because we have the firepower to match up with them, their defense, and have a chance to score points. Now, we have to do it. Remember last year we fumbled the ball on the 5-yard line going in. We can't do that.
Right.
We've got to be clean And our offense is going to have to outscore them. And when I say that, I'm not saying we're going to give up 30 points, but we're not going to be a shutdown 14 points, 10-point game on defense. I don't believe all the way through the year. So, I want to make sure that we're clean on offense and we're balanced, and we'll put some points on the board, in my opinion.
And at least defensively, we can focus in on this. And maybe you name 2 or 3 guys. I think we pretty much agree on, I think the 2 huge moments for me, and this is already after mentioning the Zay catch and what Calvin did, but separate from that, the Jamal Agnew return, when they needed it the most, inside the 10-yard line, he decides to run it out. We're talking stones on Jamal to do that. And then the Tyson Campbell pick. Those were massive moments in this game.
And see, that's how, from a defensive standpoint and a special team standpoint, we do have some players over there that can make plays. In other words, it's not like we don't have any players on defense. Tyson Campbell is a legitimate all-star possibility corner, all-pro or a Pro Bowl corner. And so, we can turn the ball over. And I think you'll see what kind of a pass rush we have this week because they're going to be more going after Mahomes. Not so much that he can't beat you on the perimeter, but he can beat you in the pocket. So you have no choice. You got to let it eat and do what you can to get him off the spot and make him have to execute.
And that, when you say that, that doesn't mean necessarily sending the house all the time because he will kill the blitz.
No, I'm talking about guys off the edges. Getting one-on-one with guys and beating them.
Yeah, the Allens and the Walkers. Foley Fatukasi, he was able to create pressure inside. He made a play, which was huge. You talk about what Josh Allen did. I'm not dismissing this. He might have chased a guy out of bounds, but it's still a tackle for loss in my book. Still a sack in my book.
Well, he had 10 tackles, too. He made a great ball game. He played really well.
Devin Lloyd, he might have been MIA on one that you talked about with the screen, but also made his share of plays.
He did. And Alua Connax, he made a bunch of plays. Those guys, we've got some players on defense, but putting the whole thing together, we're much more oriented to be a zone type team that is a little bit soft from the 20 to the 20, but you have to be able to play in the red zone, which we did. And offensively, that was another real plus for this football team. They were 100% in the red zone, which last year they were not.
So that's another great point.
That's another thing we have to be able to do.
And ETN was not in the red zone, but he ran into he ran into a Blanding Boulevard traffic jam on the right side and bounced out of there. Took it the other way and took it to the house, 26 yards. So they weren't even in the red zone at that point.
Yeah, but they were close enough.
Yeah, he made a huge play. And then Tank not only scored, but drug all those defenders on that one.
And you have to be able to run the ball inside the 20, and I think we're capable of doing that.
And you've been very, very steadfast in saying that consistently from Coach. You've got to be able to run the ball inside the red zone. The other 2 guys that I wrote down, you already mentioned Aluakon. He had a nice pass defense at a crucial time in this game late. And boy, did Darius Williams have one right at the goal line.
He did.
That was major.
He covered the guy and made a great play. Like I say, the plays come down to 5 or 6 plays during the game that make a big difference. And if you make those plays, you win. And if the other team makes those plays, and you lose.
Now, can you see Trevor using his legs a little more? Let's just at least spend the last couple of minutes looking ahead to the Kansas City Chiefs. I thought Trevor, not reserved, but did ultimately decide, I've got to make a play. He used his legs. He took off, made a couple of big runs. Obviously was able to. He should not have been trying to sneak it on 3rd and 3.
Right. Well, I don't know what the story was there.
But he did take off and run. Do you expect him to do a little more of that this week?
I think that's part of his game.
I agree.
The first down, I think, was when he kept the football and dove across for the first down. And the one thing about the red zone, he did exactly what we thought the other guy was going to do. They ran a quarterback draw with him. That was a designed quarterback draw. But the good thing about him is that once he gets on the perimeter, his eyes are downfield, and that throw he made on the deep crossing route was off once and the throw for the touchdown.
Yeah.
Those things are the one he threw for the touchdown.
Yeah.
He was running full speed to his left, and he had to get himself squared up, and he had no problem.
And you know what I loved about it is that they are so good and so gifted. They're making defenders declare back there because I think it was either Kirk or Zay over here on the left side. And basically, they're toying with that defense, saying, I could throw it to him or I could throw it to him.
Right.
You pick your poison.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the advantages we have.
Yeah, which is great. All right, so leaning into this Chiefs game, you like the fact that they might be able to run the ball better against this front than they did against the Colts front.
Right.
You like the fact that Trevor and this battery of weapons in the receiving game is obviously there. Give us one or two other things that you might be thinking about when you're handicapping this game.
Well, first of all, I think we know them. We know them. That's an advantage, and I think they know us a little bit too. But I mean, we know them, and again, I'm talking offense. If we're going forward here, we got to score points, and so I think we know their defense. I think we match up okay with them. From a personnel standpoint, we're a much better receiving group than they have, in my opinion, other than Kelsey. And Kelsey will be a factor. So I think that's an advantage for us. I don't think they have the firepower that we have. So, I think this game is going to be a close ball game. I don't think either team is going to run away with it. I think it's, I think the over is 50 or something like that.
It was right around a 3.5 down to a 2.5 point line. It went back up to 3. I'm going to check the numbers for the.
I think it's a 50.
Is it? Okay, I wouldn't doubt it because that makes perfect sense just as far as points going on the board.
Right. So I think if we get into a shootout, we have an advantage, in my opinion.
And can you imagine saying that this time a year ago against that team?
No. Well, you guys didn't like.
Don't put me in that Matt Hayes camp.
You didn't like the guys that we brought in free agency.
Don't you dare put me in that Matt Hayes camp. Matt Hayes would be a bunch of C guys, bunch of 3 guys.
Yeah, and I kept saying, you kept saying, I'm putting you right in there with it. Kept saying, well, but listen, they're better than they were before. And they were, absolutely. The guy that stuck out to me last year is the same guy that can stick out this year is Ingram. Ingram was a guy that I wasn't necessarily counting on. I was counting on
the other
Zay Jones and
Kirk. And Marvin. We can throw Marvin back.
So, I like this group. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
And by the way, there were Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore drops everywhere with Kansas City.
I don't think they'll do that again, though.
I pretty much agree.
They're good enough receivers. It's just they had a bad day, but we've got to make sure we take care of our business.
Now, listen, I may put Kadarius Toney back in that C category or a 3 category because he can be good. He can be really dynamic, but he also is spotty.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yes.
His total career, I think, had 55 catches coming into this game.
Right.
And so he had to overcome injury. Andy Reid said, we'll clean all that stuff up. We'll find out whether. But this is an opportunity for them to force him into, I don't know, a tip ball and turn it into a turnover, something like that.
Well, I mean, their receiver core is not what it has been in the past.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah.
And if Kelsey's not 100%, that helps as well.
All right, Coach, I get to bang the table, and we get to bobblehead our way out of here.
It's moving.
Because they're 1-0, Coach.
Yep.
All right, we're going to do the bobblehead as we say goodbye every time they win here in Duval. Joe C., XL Primetime, noon to 3 weekdays. Coach Campo will be back with us on Friday. Always appreciate you hanging out with us.
That's great. Love it.
Go Duval.